Welcome once again to the Make It Happen Outdoors podcast, the podcast where we explore all things outdoors and love having conversations with those that are as passionate about it as we are. Your hosts are, of course, myself, Kent Beckstead, and my co-host, Brandon Potts. And we are excited to sit down and hear how you are making it happen in the outdoors. So sit back, relax, and have a good time. All right. Welcome back to this episode of the Make It Happen Outdoors podcast. In this episode, we were honored to have a conversation with Chelsee Dery. You probably know Chelsee from her Instagram, ivory.outdoors. And if you don't already follow Chelsee on that page, please make it a point to go do so. Make me a promise you go do that. You'll be glad you did. Chelsee's love for wildlife and hunting and the outdoors becomes very apparent very quickly as you start to talk to her. Her list of things that she's done in the outdoors and what she does for the outdoors is extremely long. I mean, just a couple things. She's very involved in archery. She loves calling. She shoots long range. She is a volunteer, transports wounded birds of prey. She's into photography and film for the outdoors industry. Everything she does is in the spirit of preserving the hunting heritage. So jump in, give this a listen, and you'll find out as fast as we did really quickly her love of the outdoors. So Chelsee was great, and here we go. Thanks again.
All right, another day, two.
Day two. Yep.
Chelsee's day one.
Yes.
At the Hunt Expo, and we're honored to have Chelsee Dery, and I know her as Ivory Outdoors. And where'd that name come from?
Oh gosh, I think when I started thinking about the name, I didn't know what it was going to be named, and I didn't want it to just be my name because I actually didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to be about all the things that I love and people falling in love with the things that I love.
Okay.
But then I thought about that bull that I missed when I was pregnant and the ivory tips because the first time he came down, my dad and I were probably 50 yards apart, and he came down straight in front of my dad across this meadow facing directly towards my dad, and all I could see was the ivory tips moving like on tops of the little trees. And so I loved the word ivory, and I also loved the meaning of ivory being white and pure, and it being a pure love and passion for the outdoors. So that's where that came from.
Oh, I love it.
Went with it. Yeah, that's great. So did you grow up hunting? Tell us a little bit about your upbringing and that kind of thing. Let everybody get to know who you are.
So I started hunting with my dad and my grandfather when I was 4.
Okay.
And a part of it was because I am the oldest of 4 kids. And so my mom had my sisters and basically was like, please take Chelsee and go do something because I cannot handle all 3 children. So I spent a lot of time with my dad in the outdoors and in the shop working on cars, and I did all the things a son would do with their dad. And it was really amazing because we fostered this relationship that just now we still hunt together, and I learn from him and he learns from me now, and
Perfect.
It's amazing. But yeah, I started going when I was 4. I would just follow them around, and it's been, I think that's why what I do is so important, is just keeping hunting heritage alive, because it was with my grandfather and my dad, and he's like my best friend. So
that's awesome.
And I could say most of the stories you've told me so far, your dad plays in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's always now it's funny because he'll say, "Oh, I'm too old to go do that," and I'm like, "Well, you're coming with me. I'm gonna keep dragging you out to the woods every year," and he's definitely not too old. He helped us build our shop, so it's an excuse. It's an excuse.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
So you started hunting. What game were you growing up hunting?
So I joke with my dad that he is the whitetail slayer because he loves whitetail hunting. He gets monster whitetail bucks every single year, and so it was mostly deer. We hunted mule deer some, but mostly whitetail, and we would try to hunt elk, but I grew up in an area where the elk population wasn't really high, and it's very dense, very steep terrain, so we just didn't see them that often.
Much. Yeah.
No.
Tree stand hunting? Or
I have never hunted in a tree stand before.
Good for you.
It's
We're talking
spot and
Western
stock.
whitetails, basically, though.
Yes.
Right?
So spot and stock. It's always been mountain whitetail, like the rugged kind that they're very like elusive a lot of the time, and that's why we started shooting long range, because we would always see these monster bucks from across drainages and everything. But
right. So how long did you start shooting long range?
I would say probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. When did you pick up your bow first start shooting, even as you younger?
Oh, I think I started shooting archery when I was 14, and then I took bow hunter safety like the first year that I could, and I was the only girl in the class, and just started going with my dad, and then I picked up calling, and I loved calling.
I definitely want to get into that.
Yeah.
Was your first bow recurve or compound?
It was compound.
It was compound?
Yep.
What bow was it?
Oh man, I don't even know if I remember. I'm trying to think. No, because I don't remember my first bow, but I do remember the first bow I bought myself.
Okay.
And it was a Bowtech. And it was black, matte black with a pink string, a hot pink string.
Okay.
And I was so proud of it, because it was the first expensive thing I had bought myself when I was like, I don't know how old I was, like 17 or something.
Yeah.
But I still never got anything with it. It went on some walks, and that's it.
We've been on plenty of bow hikes.
I've been plenty of bow hikes.
There's a lot of bow hikes going on. Oh, that's funny. I've got I still have my very first bow that I bought when I was 14. It's a Hoyt Easton. They used to be a Easton, a Game Getter 2. It's about how tall? It seriously is. Is literally 3.5 feet.
Short riser, really long limbs.
Yeah, really long limbs.
Much different than today's bows
by a long shot. Steel sights. They were gold steel sights.
Yeah, the pins were gold.
The pins were gold. Yeah, and I shot that bow. I bought it in the early 80s, and I shot that until 2000. And because we were bow hunting, and I mean, what made me buy a new bow was because I shot at a cow elk at like 45 yards, and she moved out of the way of the arrow.
Oh, did she duck the arrow, or she completely moved?
She just she's broadside, and I thought, that arrow it has an arc to it at 45 yards. I thought, maybe I should buy a new bow.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I know how that goes, though, because my dad shot the same rifle until like 2 years ago. From when I was a kid, he had the same 30-06.
I was going to say 30-06 probably.
Yep,
right?
it was the same 30-06. I shot it once, probably more than that, but when I was young, shot at a rabbit, and it knocked me flat on my back, so I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's had that same rifle. I think you just get so used to the same things.
Probably had like a Burris 3x9 scope on it or something like that.
Oh my gosh, probably. I don't even remember now, but...
That's hilarious. And that's the way it goes, though. So my second bow, I bought a Matthews in 2000, and I shot that until 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I had that for 20 years as well, and I got another Matthews. But I just hang on to stuff.
Yeah.
I use it. It still shoots. It's killing animals.
Yeah.
So why
Why change?
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't always need the newest.
No, right. Yeah. There's a culture of that's out there that people think they got to have the latest, greatest, nicest, best, whatever.
Not always the case.
And look, if you got the money to do it, fine.
Yeah.
But you don't really need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about your long range stuff. You said you got 3 years ago you started shooting, and what got you into that?
So it was a friend of my husband. They grew up together, and his friend was like really into long range shooting, and we would go, and we ended up, I think, shooting one of his long-range rifles, and then my husband was like, oh my gosh, I need a long-range rifle.
This is a cool world.
Yeah, so I grew up very, like, I had the same 270 growing up, and I was like, this is my rifle that I use for everything, and so I ended up getting a 300 PRC, and I just fell in love with that rifle. It's a Bergara, I think it's the B14, and I love that rifle so much. And my husband reloads, so he loves. I am not a numbers person.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm not sure why this keeps going in and out, but that your microphone was doing good for a minute, and it just went a little silent. So go ahead.
I am not a numbers person, so my husband loves doing load workup and all of that. He got really into all that stuff, and he tried to teach me, and I was like, I'm not
ballistics charts aren't for me.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not tracking this. Like, I'll shoot the rifle, and like, but if you want to reload, then. So we got into it. Also because we were seeing a lot of deer across canyons, like areas that we couldn't get closer to them. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of those like high country whitetail. They'll hang out just below the high tree line, like, and then above where you can't go in there before daylight and get in there before like thermals start to shift or anything. Yeah. And it's like steep, timbered. They come in and out of these little pockets, and
we were
like, well, it's just another skill to learn, right? And as a hunter, I feel like we should be so willing to learn.
You bet.
Always learning.
Do you have wolves up there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There's so
the deer have adapted to the wolves, which means we have to adapt to hunt the deer.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy because some of the areas that we have hunted, we moved out there 8 years ago. And some of the areas that we've hunted the whole time, now the last 2 years, there's wolves present in areas where there's a lot of public land traffic. And they're down in areas where there's tons of people, and it's scary because it's a tough topic to talk about too with wolves. And after seeing how much it's grown and the areas that I'm like, there's no way that wolves should be down here.
They're going to get skinny. That's for sure.
Yeah, so it's tough, but.
So have you hunted with your long-range rifle?
Yes, that's the 700-yard.
Let's hear it.
Story. It's my favorite story. So my very first buck I shot near where my dad lives, and it was a non-typical just basket rack, right? It was only like, it's not that big.
Yeah.
It's a pretty small rack. But he's like a 9x7.
Okay.
He's just got these points everywhere with like super tall eye guards and really short points all over on the main beam.
Yeah, I wonder if he's really old.
It was so he had a really young face, so my dad was like, I think the genetics were just incredible. But so I shot that buck in this area, and I had completely forgotten where we even were because I was 12 and we were on a four-wheeler and it was cold, and all I remember was him being like, do you see the deer? And me being like, yeah. And then he grabbed my rifle and moved it, and he's like, now do you see the deer? And I was like, oh, I do actually see it. But that was where I got my first buck. So then I think it was 2 years ago or so, I had been practicing long range, and I knew I was comfortable out to 800 yards. I knew I was comfortable further than that, but I was like, I'm comfortable taking, if all the conditions are perfect, I'm comfortable 800, 700 yards. So I go with my dad and my brother, and now my brother's 10 years younger than me, and he's an invasive cardiovascular specialist, so I never get to see him or hunt with him anymore. So it was really cool being with my dad and my brother. And we get to this spot, and we hike up this gated road, and me and my brother go a little bit further, and my dad's down in the bottom. And we barely have any cell phone service, and my dad calls us, and he's like, get down here now. And I was like, we just got up here. Like, I can see so much. I want to start glassing. And he's like, no, get down here now. There's a big buck. There were other words in there, but
Yeah.
he,
Sure.
I don't need to say those words, but he was really excited. So we get down there, and he says, "You're the only one who can shoot that far." Like, and I look, and it's this like really nice 5x5 whitetail, and I had never shot a 5x5. I had only shot 4x4s, and I'm like, oh, that is a really nice deer. So usually my husband's with me when I'm shooting long range, and he does the number stuff.
He doesn't
Yes.
set your dials.
So
and
we had practiced, like I had practiced using the app, ranging, like doing the angle, everything, and I get all set up. My brother gets the spotting scope set up, and he's recording through the spotting scope so I can see where I'm hitting. And I shot, the first shot was, I hit right above the buck's back. Like we could see the snow fly, and it was right in line with the vitals.
Okay, so your
and
windage is good.
He's like, you're a little bit high, but that buck was chasing does all over that hillside.
Okay.
So he was constantly moving. There was a lot of snow, and I laid prone in the snow for 2 hours waiting for the right shot, and he'd stop, and they'd be like, he stopped, shoot, and I'm like, I don't feel right about this shot. I'm not taking this shot. And my dad's like, you need to stand up and warm up, because he could see that I was
You're
starting
getting
to
cold,
get cold,
yeah.
and I could feel the snow underneath me melting and me getting wet. And I'm like, no, if I get my shot, like, I'm going to be behind my rifle. So this buck's just like running in and out of these little patches of timber. And my brother goes, he's going to come out right here. Like, he's going to come out right by the stump. He went in the timber, that doe's down there. He's like, he's going to come out right there and look down off of that ledge, or look down. And he gets the spotting scope on him. And I remember moving and looking, and that buck steps out, and he's like just quartering to a little bit. And I was like, okay, I feel really good about this, because he stopped completely. I shot, and you can see the vapor trail.
Oh,
I have
man.
the whole video of it and everything. You can see the vapor trail, and then he hunches up and takes off. And I've had way too many animals disappear once you can't see them.
Yes.
And,
Right.
and my dad recorded. It was so cute. My dad did this like selfie video of us, and he was like, Chelsea just got this really nice buck. And they're excited, and you can see me in the background shivering and like looking up there like I can't see.
I
I
can't
don't
see
have
him. I don't-
eyes on him, though I don't know that he's down.
Right.
So
And
we
it
hiked up there.
Ended up being how long? 700?
It was 700 yards.
Right on dead nuts?
It
700, or-
was like, yeah, which that's the funny part, because the whole time, because my dad doesn't shoot long range, the whole time I get really mean when I'm stressed out, because I was like, what's the range? And he's like, well, he only moved like 20 yards, so it's, and I'm like, Dad, I need the
I need
exact
no range.
yardage.
I don't
Like,
want for
give
approximates
me-
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I need the yardage. And he's like, okay, he is, he's 700 yards. And that was when he was right there. We had enough time to, like, my brother's like, he's going to step out here. Like, this is the range. You had to take my phone off the spotting scope, do the whole how many clicks.
Yeah.
And so then it just worked out perfectly. And I think the patience in me laying there for 2 hours, I didn't take a shot that I was like, I'm going to wound him.
Right.
And so we got up there, and it was a perfect heart shot. I started field dressing him, and my brother, being in the medical field, he was like, you blew out his whole left ventricle. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but at least he only went 20 yards.
Right.
Like, he didn't suffer.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was quick and efficient. And I think that's what's important with long range is,
Yeah.
if you're efficient with your rifle and you understand your equipment, and because there's a big debate on
There
which
is.
I want to hear your opinions on.
I think you nailed it. If you can be confident, you're proficient. Yes,
Yeah.
because it is an art that you have to practice, right?
Yes.
You cannot walk out of here and go shoot 800 yards not having done it before, only shooting 200, 150, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But there's I have no less respect for somebody that's a long-range shooter than I do somebody that takes the 200-yard shots, as long as they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I have the same thing for bow hunters that, think they can take an 80-yard shot when they really can't.
Yeah.
So, no, I respect those people. It's a lot of work to
Yeah.
be able to shoot that, understand all the ballistics, and do that. It takes a lot of work.
One, I think with anything in hunting, it being truly efficient with all of it it does take a lot of work and patience.
And patience.
Yeah.
And money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and money. Yeah, being able to do that and practice, because you go through a lot of ammo. You go through a lot. Your optics have to be on. You have to have decent optics. You can't just do the old Bushnell 3x9.
All right.
Yeah. We like arch it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's Yep.
Yeah, that's funny. A quick story. I went on a oryx hunt in New Mexico 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, and one of the guys who had a tag there, he was. We jumped out of the. It's on a ranch. It's not high fence or anything. They're wild. They're not easy, but there's a lot of opportunity. So you see a lot. So you have opportunity. But if you don't take it, you got to find another opportunity, because they're not. They're skittish. They'll run, and they don't like to be around people. So jumps out of the truck, and the one on the right. Shoot the one on the right. One on the right. Boom. He shoots, hits it, and it turns and takes off. And it about 200 yards, it stops again, right? He shoots, dust flies behind it somewhere. He takes off again. Now he's 500 and something, 600 yards away. Shoots again. We couldn't tell where it hit, and he's just standing there. And finally, he's 700 yards away, and one of the guys in the truck goes, "Jason, use your clickers. Use your stuff." And he goes, "Oh shit!" Click, 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 click. 700 yards, boom, drilled it, and he drops.
Oh my god.
He was doing that. He was lifting the rifle. Oh, let's see, 6 inches, 8 inches.
You have the technology.
And he's got the technology. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we joke about, or my dad would joke, because we bought him a long range rifle. We bought him a 300 Win Mag, and that's what we had the reloading stuff for. And it's funny because he had that rifle for, over a year and didn't shoot it. And I was like, "Dad, are you going to shoot the rifle?" And he's like, "I just, he's like a creature of habit. And like, this is where I get this. Is
my
from
trusty
you.
30-06 is good.
Yeah, he's like, "I got my 30-06. But now that he's shot one with a muzzle brake, he's like, "Oh, so I don't have to be abused every time I shoot my rifle."
Yeah.
Like, this is so crazy. And also, like, it makes it so much easier to shoot. But we joke about the arching it, because my brother, when he shot his bull, we were coming back from deer hunting, and we were driving, and we stopped, and they were like, "We're gonna pee, like take a break and whatever." And I get out and turn around, and there's a herd of elk right crossing this hillside, and I was like, "There's elk right there." And me and my dad joke with each other a lot, like prank each other or joke about stuff, and he's like, "Sure, whatever, Chelsea, there's no elk up there." And then they look and they're like, "There's elk up there." But that was before I had gotten into long range as much, and my brother ended up shooting a raghorn that day, and it was just like they were at 400 yards, I think. And then after that was when we got into long range, and I was like, "Okay, we're gonna like be efficient with this.
Oh,
and
yeah,
we
yeah.
need to." So
It's a lot of work to get there. And a lot of knowledge and everything else. Yep.
Yeah.
And learning. I love the learning aspect, though. I've gotten to shoot with people who are ex-military, like shoot very long range, and getting the pointers from them as far as positioning and everything has been so amazing.
Position, breath control, all
everything.
that, right?
Yeah, like even where your finger is on the trigger and how much pressure you're putting, how much pressure
here versus here versus the tip.
Yeah, so like where the trigger is on your finger, how much pressure you're putting on the rifle with your cheek, everything plays into
repetition.
it.
Well, because a little bit here makes a big difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Down there.
Yeah, so just like with if you're archery hunting and you grip the bow right a certain way, you're going to either tweak it right or left. It's the same with a rifle. If you like put the trigger too far in here, you're going to pull it this way or that way, or so it's like all those fine tuning things that are fun to learn. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the repetition too. I mean, you do it and you do it as muscle memory, right? The first 100 times you do it, you might do it the same 30 of those 100, and the next 100 you do it the same 80 of those 100, and until finally it's just muscle memory. Boom, you do the same, it touches the same, you feel it, everything just goes.
Yeah.
So you got to do it a lot.
Yeah, you do, and it's really cool. Like my rifle, her name is Big Bertha, and I've gotten a lot of animals with her now, and I know with the trigger, I know how far I can pull it before it's that last little bit right before it's going to go off. And you get to that point where it's like, I have this relationship with my rifle now that I'm
Well,
like, I understand you and you understand me, and we go well together. And
there's something to be said for that, though, right? Because even with, modern technology, manufacturing processes, they're not all the same.
exactly,
Right? So until you learn it, until you two can spend some time together and decide
Exactly.
whether you're going to fit, right?
Yep, just like any other relationship.
Yep.
You
No
gotta
doubt.
pay attention to all the little things. So,
No doubt.
Yeah.
So what about your bow hunting? Let's talk about all your bow hunting.
Oh,
Yeah, because I want to get into your calling, too.
I love archery. That's like, if I could just archery hunt all the time, go with everybody that's going and just call for them. Or I'm not as much of a shooter because I'm like, it's sad to me. I'm a real softie when it comes to shooting. I'm like, if I can call, like I'm talking to them, I'm going to bring them in, like I'm helping people. But I started, this is year 16 now that I've been archery hunting, that I have not shot a bull with my bow. And I went alone some last year when my son was in school, but it's really hard, as we talked about earlier, to go by yourself and call, and you almost have to know where they're going and cut them off.
And do an ambush type
Yeah,
shit,
and just know. But I have been so interested in learning elk and watching the way that elk move and what they like to be in and where they like to bed and the mannerisms of the herd, and it's just become this like obsession kind of with elk. And I love calling. I love calling.
That's awesome.
And that's a 2-hour podcast alone on whether there's callers that just call to elicit a fight. Right? That's not my style. I like to know what they're saying, why they're saying it, what they're doing. That's my fun. That's how I enjoy it. But that run and gun bow hunting, finding the bull that wants to fight, and you might have to go through 10 elk to get there. That's great, and it works really, really well. Just not my style, right? I want to hunt every elk out there, not just.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about that too. Being patient enough to get in there and be like, okay, well, I'm going to listen to the herd. I'm going to figure out, like, where's the lead cow, what's going on, like, where are the satellite bulls hanging out, because they're always the ones that
screw it up.
they bust you somehow.
Exactly.
And so, I think the patience in bow hunting I love the most, and how hard it is versus, the playing field is not even at all. Like,
Not
you're
even.
pretty...
Oh, yeah.
They spend 365 days a year not dying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So-
and we're not built to be in the mountains like they are.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, they survived. So how did you learn how to start calling?
So I don't even remember when I started calling. It was when I was pretty young, when I just kind of picked it up a little bit. But when I really got into it was when I met my husband. I really started like focusing on calling because he's an archery hunter, and I was like, oh yeah, I could call bulls in for you. Like, it'll be a really cool like challenge, right, to be able to do this. And I had called a little bit before that, but I got really into it then. And there were a lot of times that he would be like, there's no way we're going to get that bull out of the bottom. And I'm like, I'll get the bull out of the bottom. He'll come out of the bottom. And learning all of that has been really cool. But the one video on my page that went viral was, I don't know if you saw that, the woman thing.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but
It was so funny because I was in the school pickup line, and my dad had said, you should record a video talking about how you taught Copper to talk to elk and what they're saying. And I was like, sure, why not? And it's just like me recording because I'm sitting in the school pickup line. And I used to tell my son when he was really little, so the boy elk run around and they say, woman, and then the girl elk say, ew, and run away from them. And so for so long,
I saw that video just today.
Yeah, and it was so crazy because I didn't even know if I should post it. It was just so, like, it wasn't even recorded that great. And and I posted it, and then it just went crazy. It was like my
It's
most
spot on.
viral video, and people were like, "We love this. You should do them for all animals." I'm like, I'm just obsessed with elk though, so like, I'm like I could try, but it wouldn't be as organic as that was. So, but it's the learning, the herd thing that I love so much, and learning all their different sounds and what they mean, and they can mean different things in different situations. And it's just, I feel like as a hunter, if you can hone in on archery elk hunting, it really says something about you as a hunter and your patience and your love for the sport. Not even the sport, the lifestyle. I mean, it's...
They're still teaching me stuff.
Yeah.
I learned stuff even this year. Mm-hmm. You know, it could be out of necessity.
Yeah.
Hey, look, this isn't working. I've got to try something else, or whatever, right? And they still taught me stuff.
Yeah.
So you're never done.
No.
And that's the beauty of it too.
That's
You're
why it's
not
so
ever
good.
done.
That's why it's so fun. You're
Yeah.
always, there's always something different. Every year is different. You know.
Yeah, I think in all of hunting, it's like that. If you can get the mindset of being a lifelong learner as a hunter, then, and never being the best hunter in the room, being like, I'm not ever going to say I'm better than anyone else, because I have so much to learn. There's too much knowledge for this lifetime to learn in hunting, and I think that's one of the biggest things my dad always instilled in me was, be the listener in the room and learn from everyone that you can learn from, because everyone has all these life experiences. That's why I think what you guys are doing with the podcast is really cool, because hearing stories, you can also learn from that.
You learn from those, exactly right.
Yeah, if you're absorbing that and really listening, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah. I need to slow down a little bit. Because, I was telling you earlier that I'm the go, let's go. There they are, let's go.
Yeah.
Kent's the slow down.
That's my dad.
Like,
my dad's that kind of hunter, too. And I'm like, Dad, let's just sit for a minute. And he's like, we got to get across this ridge. I'm like, Dad, it was always the next ridge, the next ridge, the next ridge. So
yeah.
I grew up with that. Yeah.
That's funny. My daughter bow hunts. And
Oh, cool.
We bow hunt, and she gives me such a hard time for, they're there, let's go. Yeah, I'm always on them like that. They call me either Huntler or Huntler or some other reference,
Nazi,
some Nazi thing.
Oh,
Because I'm like the elk Nazi or something. Because when it's time to go, right?
I love that.
Yeah. So I kind of got that way, because where we hunt, one specific area that we have where we hunt a lot, they're only in that area because they're moving through.
It's transition area.
Yeah,
okay.
so we play that game quite a bit, and so when it's time to go, it's time to go.
Time to go. There's no messing around.
Yeah.
I think you kind of learn that, though, the different areas you're in. I know that there's some areas we've been in that it is like a transition area. The only time you can get close to the elk is like when they're transitioning from like bedding area, whatever, early in the morning or evening or whatever, and you just adapt to, because that's how it was growing up. My dad was always like, here's some buck tracks, let's chase them up the mountain. I'm like, you can see where he's stopping and seeing us and running again. I'm like, he's probably like 4 miles ahead of us. And so it was always go. And I think hunting with me now, I love glassing and watching animals. I love watching them and being like, what are they doing? Like, where are they coming from? Because I know they're going to go back where they know they're safe and everything. And he'll be like, I'm bored. Let's just go up there. And I'm like, So I'm definitely used to that.
Yeah. So when did you call in your first bull?
Oh, man.
Do you remember any of that? Or do you have a good,
I have a good,
in?
like, my first big, like, the best story that I love so much was I was bow hunting with my husband, and it was that one I kind of told you a little bit about, but we hiked in this area, and there was this bull, this really nice bull that he was down in the bottom with all of his cows, and I do like locating bugle, and he wouldn't respond to me, and he was just being really quiet, and he'd kind of respond, but I'm like, he's not really that, like, he's not a wanna fight kind of bull, and I think that's why I was like, I get the challenge. Like we could
Right.
try. What is it gonna hurt? He's way down there where we
Right.
can't get close to him. So I told my husband, okay, you sit right here by this log, so I know where you are. I'm gonna get this bull to come out of the bottom. And I started with like just this really short, high pitch bugle, just like a young bull that I always think of it in terms of like people. I'm like, I'm gonna think of it as like a teenager with like raging hormones that just wants to fight, and so this older bull is gonna be like, this is so annoying. Like I'm gonna annoy him so bad that he has to come up. So he still wasn't coming up, and I ended up moving back like 30 yards, and I just started like raking trees and bugling and raking trees, and finally he responded with like a bigger bugle, and I was like,
Okay, now
it's
we're on to
working.
something.
And
Yep.
so I worked that bull. I don't know how long it was. I just remember I was sweating and like running back and forth because he kept moving and trying to get like wind or anything. And because we were so deep in this drainage, he couldn't pick up the wind, and like the thermals were perfect. And so I remember one moment where I went to go from one tree to another, and he hadn't called in a little bit, and I know I probably should have just sat still, but I'm like, he knows exactly where I am,
Right.
and if he's coming around me, he's gonna bust us. And I remember going to go to this other tree, and out of the corner of my eye, as soon as I stepped out, I could see Tynes. He was looking right at me, and I just stopped and was like, I can't make eye contact. I can't move.
Right.
I'm nothing. If I don't move, he'll like turn his head and bugle again or like try to catch wind.
Right.
And he did. He turned his head, and I like jumped behind the tree. I ended up getting that bull up to 30 yards, but it was really foggy that day, so the rangefinder wasn't reading the range.
Oh, man.
And so that's why he missed the first time, was because it wasn't reading at all. So he kind of had to guess, and it was a downhill shot.
Which is tough.
So
Especially tough for the yardage, yep.
yeah, so he missed the first time. I got him to come back, and I think we snuck up on him with one of the pop-out decoys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Also, and snuck up on him. And after that, so we ended up not getting him. We went and got my dad and my mom, and they hiked like 11 miles with us, just
Holy cow.
chasing this bull, and he just kept pushing his cows further and further. And my mom, we're walking out in the dark, and she's not a big hunter. She loves to be in the outdoors. She loves to go. But I remember walking back, and I was dying, and my mom was like, I don't like this is really hard. I'm like, I know, Mom, this isn't normally what, I don't know why we chased that one bull so far, but she was a trooper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's probably hungry and thirsty and
Right,
tired
and her feet hurt, and we
Yeah.
were going straight up and straight down and straight up and straight down, so it wasn't just like walk through the bottom.
Right.
And so, but no, I just love calling.
Have you
So fun.
have you taken any or gotten online and followed anybody or learned from anybody that's out there? Listened to what they say about calling and talking and what they're saying. Have you done any of that?
I actually haven't. I want to say that I have because I love learning from people, but I watched a lot of like wildlife documentaries, and I wanted to watch actual footage of
Yeah.
elk talking because I know like my dad's called, and he just never like focused on it a lot, and so I would listen to different people calling, and I was like, they all want to sound exactly the same sometimes, and I was like, I want to hear them actually talking. I want to hear the elk talking, and so sometimes I'll watch YouTube videos of elk bugling, and I'll mimic them and try to sound exactly like the video because I know that's
your in, yep.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's an actual elk talking.
Yeah.
But I want to say I learned from people because I do love learning from people. But
Wow, there's
I mean,
a lot of folks that know a lot of stuff. But I think
Yeah.
I learned doing the same thing you did. I learned more from that. I'd save Instagram videos of just bulls bugling
yeah,
and see what situation they were in and why they were bugling that way. And so I was able to pick out of the trick bag which one worked for that
That's what I think
day,
it was.
but-
Yeah.
and it's amazing how different all bulls.
They're all different.
How it's so amazing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and some of them sound so we've heard bulls bugle that I was like, that is not a bull. That is
Yeah.
a person. It sounds
Oh,
so
yeah.
horrible.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
we'd
yeah.
see the bull and he'd bugle and we're like,
What
wow,
the
that
heck?
is so bizarre.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've called in a lot of people.
We've called in a lot of people. A lot of 170 pounders. Yep.
Yeah.
We did that last year during archery and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a person.
Yeah. At
Yeah.
least you know your elk calling's good if you can call them in.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
can hear the difference for sure.
So, yep.
Yeah. Some of those bugles are just you're like, oh, there's a dude over there.
Yeah, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, or if they're bugling a lot and you're not responding to them, or it's exactly the same all the time, I'm always like, there's no.
Right.
You
Yeah.
kind of tell, but sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
So
Do you use any reed calls or just diaphragm calls?
what is the difference between reed and?
The reed is that little vibrating. It's got
Oh,
it's got the
okay.
little bevel on the end, and
Yeah.
you know,
So just diaphragm calls.
just diaphragm calls.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love diaphragm calls, and I love all the different, like learning all the different
Sure.
types, because each call sounds so different too.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Each, same call sounds different. Each two of the same call will sound different, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the same as like with a rifle or
Yep.
anything. Nothing is exactly the same.
Right.
So
to our ears, especially, that's the funny thing is the elk know each other from a lot of different things. Their sounds, their smell.
yeah,
Because to us, they look, unless it's a bull, they look almost exactly the same. You
Yeah.
can tell the difference in antlers, but unless they've got some sort of problem, you can they all look the same.
yeah.
To them, oh, that's Sarah. Oh, that's Jimmy. That's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think if I was to tell someone if they wanted to listen to elk call in real life, right, and not like during hunting season, I started going to Estes Park to see my brother. I was supposed to go see Nicole last year, and then it ended up being so crazy. But my brother lives there, so I went last year, and I ended up driving into the park at like 10:30 at night, just because I was like, I know where the elk are hanging out because I saw them today.
right, and they're not
so-
scared of you.
Yeah, and I drove in and I parked on this road, and the sky was totally clear. Like, I could see all of the stars, and I just started listening, and you could hear, I think there were like 4 to 6 different bulls within 400 yards of me, just screaming back and forth, and then you could hear them hit racks
No
together,
kidding.
and it
You wanna
was
set
just
your
like,
phone out there and
yeah, and I just sat outside it was freezing cold, but I sat outside my truck because it was during September, and it was like, I was like, this is the most amazing thing, and like how intense it is when they're right there, and how loud they
Yeah.
truly are. People don't realize
power.
how it's like it shakes your body. You're like, this is, and that's, I think, what I love about elk hunting so much is you go and it's this craft that you have to fine tune, right? But then
Right.
in that
Yeah.
moment when you get a bull to answer you and you're talking to this huge, powerful, majestic wild animal, and then they're close and they bugle, and you're like, okay, my heart's going to come out of my chest.
Yeah.
Like, is this terrifying or am I excited? Because I'm feeling a whole lot
There's
of
a fine
things.
line there, too, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. It's, yeah. So I would say just being able to listen to them in real life is an amazing experience, whether you're a hunter or not. I think it makes you fall in love with elk
Without a
when you
doubt.
hear them. It's
Yeah, it's something you have to experience for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That when you said when they get close and it's terrifying, you either know if you're going to run or not. I got a quick story. Another buddy of ours, 2 of them, Chuck and Darren, we were elk hunting. The moon was coming up. The bulls were bugling. I thought, let's just play with them under the full moon because it was a full moon.
yeah.
Well, we had one getting closer and closer, so we were playing with him. So we cut a little bit of distance, and he came down this little rock area, and Kent and Darren snuck to this little tiny tree. Like the size of this, right? They're hiding behind this tree, bugling. He is, 10 feet from you guys?
10 feet probably.
10 feet. And I didn't go. I'm
Oh
like,
my
I'm not going any
gosh.
closer. I'm good. That's the whole thing. I'm close enough, right? Because I
Yeah.
was about 10 yards behind him in
Yeah.
some better cover. Full moon, and that bull was screaming and crazy, and they were screaming back 10 feet from each other. They were right behind the tree, and that bull was like, I'm ready to fight. He was pissing everywhere and screaming. And
I finally told Darren, that's enough.
yeah, stop.
Yeah.
He knows where we are.
Like, okay, now I am scared. Okay, this is too much.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing, though.
Under a full moon, too, which was, I mean, that majestic. I mean, it was one of those, and I'm standing like 20 yards back just watching it all go down, and it was fun. That was those kind of times are the elk, when you talk about being just enjoying and knowing what you have in front of you is crazy.
Those are the moments that I think make it, that's what builds the passion for it. And those are moments I think everyone needs to experience. Even if you're not a hunter, just experiencing that and being in moments like that.
Definitely.
All of the moments I have from hunting, like, that I cherish the most weren't because I got anything or I failed a tag. They were like going hunting with my dad and like seeing a buck and watching him chase does, and my dad being like, do you wanna? And I'm like, no, I kind of just want to watch him. Like, we'll just sit here and watch him, and listening to him like grunt and do all this stuff, and
that's cool.
It's something else.
I want to just tell stories now. Because we got so many damn stories. But it's got those juices flowing.
Yeah.
We got into a bunch of elk. I'll tell one more, and then it's all about you again.
No, you're good.
We had these. We were down this ridge line, and there were elk all morning, and it was lunchtime. I mean, we sat on this little ridge area and eating lunch, and this bull bugles behind us. I'm like, well, shit, he's close. Let's pop into the oak brush here and see what we can do. So we sat down, and he was there. We didn't call or anything. He was just moving his cows, and his cows were bringing him down.
Oh, that's perfect.
So we're in this oak brush, and 25 yards or so, there's a small little opening on the other side of the oak brush. The cows come in. There were, 4 or 5 of them? There were only a few. They bed down in the oak brush we're on the edge of.
Oh, my gosh.
So we got cows 10 feet from us. They didn't know we were there. We just
wind right.
Yeah, and we're laying down. We got surprised, so we have our food out. We're just laying down, and this bull comes in, 6-point bull, and there's another bull bugles up higher. So this other bull comes down. They square off in the little meadow 25 yards from us, and we thought, they're going at it. They're going at it. Well, the bull that brought the cow, or that had the cows with him, scared the other one off. He goes back up the hill and is calling. Well, we're laying down. This bull starts working his cows. He comes around the oak. Kent is laying down.
Oh my
and he's laying down, and this bull goes nose to nose with Kent. He's like, right there. No shit.
It was the craziest. You realize how big they really are.
Yeah.
He's staring down at me.
And he doesn't know what he is.
Yeah, but can't figure me out.
Doesn't
Right?
figure
he's
him
like,
out.
what the heck?
Yeah,
This isn't my area. What are you doing here?
And he picks his head up, walks around, starts working his cows on the other side, and we're like, what do we do? We got to get him.
We couldn't shoot him.
You're right.
We didn't have
can
the right
just
tag.
smell him.
You're right.
He's right there.
Oh,
Yeah.
so cool.
That would be so amazing. That's like going to Estes and having him walk right next to I have a video of my dad standing next to me.
Yeah.
And you can hear my dad in the background. There's this bull, this little raghorn, and he's like bugling, and then he's walking towards the road. And my dad's like, we should move. Chelsee, we should move. And I was like, this is how you get the shot. Like, I'm not moving. And he's like, okay, you need to move now. Because he's like 10 feet in front of us and, looking not very happy. And he's like, okay, let's move now. But all those moments are like, that's crazy, though. Being that close.
I'll never forget that, right?
Oh
I got one of those on video.
I didn't know what to do. I mean, cool. Other than be still, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
right? And then you realize how helpless you are compared to them.
Exactly.
And you're like...
If he decides to fight, you're screwed.
Yep.
Right? If he's like, I don't like that you're in this area that I'm supposed to feel safe in.
Take nothing for him, yeah.
Oh, and I think that's the other thing that when I talk to people who don't hunt about hunting and they say, well, you have an advantage because there's all this technology. And I said, but that's why I love archery too, because you don't have any advantages. Like the wind, you can do everything right. Like, there's been so many moments, and you guys know this all too well. There's been so many moments I'm like, the thermals are right. I watch the herd. I know exactly what's going on. I know where the lead cow is. We know everything's right, and I'll like get this and start working this bull, and all of a sudden it'll go silent, and then we'll check the wind, and the wind shifted.
Got us.
The wind swirling.
Yep.
It's always the wind, or like a satellite bull comes in silent around you or something, and
999,000 things, 999 have
Yeah.
to go right. Only takes one to go wrong.
exactly. And I think I'm also a really big advocate for having very strong ethics when it comes to hunting. And so for me, I've had a lot of people on my page, when I said I hadn't shot a bull in 15 years, I had a lot of people say, well, it's not that hard. And I'm like, well, if you're
Yeah.
hunting public land in an area where the elk population's not that big, right? We don't have a huge elk poppopulation where we live.
And there's a lot of predators now with the
lot.
with the wolves.
Yep,
Yeah,
the
we talked about
wolves, because we're by the Idaho border, so it's like there's tons of wolves in the areas where we go, and it's really cool to see. It's just really cool to see the different comments that I get from different people. And
Right.
You can tell who
I'm
knows
like,
their stuff and who doesn't know just by the
yeah,
comments.
yeah, and it's nice to talk to hunters who are learners, and they want to be like, oh yeah, I can learn from you, and you can learn from me. But I'm like, it is hard though, and it's hard when you're like, I'm not taking that shot. I'm not.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna fling an arrow at an elk that's running through an opening, and
Yeah, I think I've flung my fair share of arrows I shouldn't have. Yeah,
I think we
seriously.
all have.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens, and then that's
It's
how
hard.
you learn.
Yeah.
That's how you learn.
Yeah.
And you work that hard. It's
It
hard
is
not
so
to.
Some sort of an
frustrating.
opportunity,
Yeah. And sometimes it gets to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, this is testing my patience like
Yeah.
a lot, and you get to that point where it's frustrating, but then at the same time I'm like, we've tracked so many animals that I am not gonna be that person.
Yeah.
I lost a really nice bull in 2010, and because I pushed too early, and, it was one long instead of two,
Yeah.
and I went in too early and lost him, and I was traumatized for the next 14 years
Oh
until
my
I got
gosh,
my
yeah.
big bull this year, right?
He's not lying. He was traumatized. I shit you not. I think he exercised a lot of demons last year. I'm not kidding you.
For sure I did.
I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
I'm the same way though. I'll hold on to that stuff. I'm like, I remember that moment. I remember tracking that and not finding it, and then
Yep.
being crying for a week straight. 'Cause I'm like,
me too.
Right.
oh, it's
tough.
hard.
Yeah.
It's the curse of being an ethical hunter
Yeah.
when you have that much of a guilty conscience if something happens.
Yeah.
I think that's a big
Yeah.
misunderstanding in. That's something that's really important to me, is talking to anti-hunters and being a hunter and learning how to talk to anti-hunters and talk to them in a way that's like, I do love wildlife. I mean, I transport wounded birds of prey for a rehab facility, and like I do that completely volunteer basis, and all the things that I love to do are for conservation.
Yes.
And there's a lot of hunters that
Yeah.
love wildlife deeply because they experience them
Deeply,
firsthand.
exactly, because I get to see what their life is like, and
Yeah.
the respect is unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's shift gears.
Yeah.
Photography.
Oh, man, that's my other heart and soul. Is I grew up in a photography family. My grandparents used to own a photo store when I was a kid. So I learned like in their studio, and they would develop film, and like I started retouching pictures, and so I learned from them. So I started practicing photography, I mean, probably 12, 13 years ago. And I love being able to capture moments that I fall in love with, because I know that people are very visual, right? So they
Right.
love seeing things that are beautiful. And I started filming last year or the year before, because film is another way to get people to really fall in love with things. But I love photography.
But still, photography, videography, not as much as photography.
Both of them
Okay.
equally. I
Equally.
love film. I love editing film in a way that like really captures the moment and the feel. I'm a feelings person. I'm like heart driven. So if I can like, my mom's always like, I can't watch your videos because they either make me cry or like they always make me feel emotional. And I'm like, but as human beings, we should cherish the fact that we can feel things.
We can have those emotions.
Yeah, like and as a hunter, like I want to feel more than just, oh, this is so cool. Like I want to feel like, oh, this is worth fighting for. Like this pulls on my heartstrings.
Yep.
So being able to film hunts and capture the preparation, the work that goes into it, the quiet moments, the quiet freezing cold moments right before the sun comes up, all the things that people don't see if they don't hunt, right? And those are the things that you fall in love with as a hunter. So being able to capture that in picture or film and show that to people and have them go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it wasn't just driving around and shooting things.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's...
Yeah, the perception of what hunters are is lost on probably more people than obviously it should. Right. Yeah.
It's so lost, and we're so stuck in this busy world, right?
Yeah.
Social media, we're constantly flooded with busy, fast-paced, like, you know, this person shot this giant deer, and this person shot this bull, and I haven't shot one in 16 years, and all this stuff that I feel like with film and photography, if you can capture someone's attention long enough to get them to slow down and really see that, like, when you're in the woods, you can be with yourself, right? You can discover, like, this is what I love. This is why I love it. This is peaceful, and if I can get people to fall in love with it, then I'm doing what I need to do.
Yours, yeah, good.
Yep.
So what are you doing with photography besides your own kind of thing? Are you got any projects? You doing anything that is just more than your personal stuff?
So I actually got to film for her outdoor journey for Courtney.
Oh,
and
you
did? Okay.
I went and filmed the mountain goat hunt on Kodiak Island, which was life-changing. It was amazing. So I love doing like freelance stuff like that. I went and filmed the shed hunt for Disabled Outdoorsmen of Utah with the kids with disabilities.
I think I saw that one.
Or special abilities.
Yes. I saw a little bit of that one, yeah.
Yeah, Mike said, we don't like to say disabilities. We say these are kids with special abilities. And I loved that. That was life-changing too. It was amazing. So I love volunteering for stuff like that. My husband probably wishes that I would charge people, but I am always like, I just want to be there. I just want to be out in the woods and experience things. And so I'm doing that. The coloring books that Elena let me do, I just wanted to do them. I think, did I tell you guys this?
Nope.
I see the coloring books.
Yeah. So the coloring books, I just wanted to do it as like something fun for her booth to like get people like come in and see something, and I was like, I'll just do it for kids. So I took her art and made coloring book pages. Well, I asked her, my husband forced me to, because I hate asking for things. He was like, you need to ask her if you can have some of the profits to buy that camera that you want for videography. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I reluctantly typed this message to her, and I was like, can I have $1 from each coloring book for my camera? And she's like, Chelsea, I'm going to give you more than $1. And I was like, I just don't want to ask for anything. Okay, I did it for you, and I don't like asking for things. So she was like, okay, yeah, we can put this toward your camera. So my dream is to travel the world, right? At first it was, I want to film for Nat Geo and film wildlife documentaries and be a hunter who is also promoting conservation and everything. So filming it from a love aspect, right? But it's grown into, it doesn't need to be Nat Geo. It could be anything. I want to travel the world.
Vincent type thing, right?
I just want people to fall in love with different cultures and see how people do things right for wildlife in different ways. And like trophy hunting, right, is a sore subject to talk about, or a tough subject to talk about, but really seeing all sides of everything in the hunting world and being able to convey, this is how we learn and we come together for wildlife, because in the end we all want to preserve and save wildlife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I can use the visuals to get people to fall in love with wildlife or projects, or to see that there is hope, right, and love, and like that's all I want to do. I might not make money doing it, but you
Yeah.
know,
That's great.
it'll come around eventually.
Were you going to say something?
No, I'm sorry. I just had thoughts going, but keep going. That's all right. No, sorry, I was close. But
You know, she brought up trophy hunting, and I've got a lot of opinions on that.
Oh, we love opinions. I love opinions.
You know, I think for anybody that's out there that's putting in for draws and those kind of things, I don't think there's such a thing as trophy hunting.
Yeah.
What I think is, if you draw a tag and you want to get a big bull, and you're willing to eat tag soup if you don't,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can't put a really label of trophy hunting on
Yeah.
that. Here's my, I think the animals that are bred to grow big antlers, to go in a high fenced area for the, so they can go shoot a big
Yeah.
animal,
Yeah.
I would consider that trophy hunting.
Yeah, I don't like that as much.
Yeah, so I believe that, I know it's my opinion that
Yeah.
those animals are on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
They're fed
Yeah.
certain things so their antlers grow really big.
Yeah.
They get transported to a 10,000 acre ranch, whatever the size of ranch is. Somebody pays an exorbitant amount of money
Yeah.
to go get a great big animal.
Yeah.
Big
and I
ant-
want to
big
know
antler.
what that money is going towards too, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm sure
is
somebody's
that
checkbook
just going
is
in
bank
someone's
account. Yeah.
pocket?
Yeah,
And
that's
then
all private stuff, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's not.
I think because those animals are somebody's private
They're privately
breed
owned.
Yeah.
or private
yeah.
Private group of animals. They're
Yeah.
herd or whatever, and they breed them and they sell them and they breed them and they sell them, and so at some point they bought those animals and they breed them and sell them, and they sell them for trophies.
Yeah.
The perception of trophy hunting is that you,
Yeah.
me, anybody who decides to even pay an outfitter, right?
Yeah.
You got the money to pay an outfitter. No, but those animals are still belong to the public.
Yeah.
Even though they jump over a fence and they happen to be on somebody's ranch,
Yeah.
they're wild, they're not bred for that, and if those are big enough animals that someone wants to pay 20, 30, 40 grand, more than that for a great big animal. I mean, those governor tags go for, you see that sheep tag in Nevada?
1.3.
$1.3 million.
Oh my gosh.
Fine,
Yeah.
because that money goes to conservation. And the guy who did that, I'm absolutely sure, was doing that as, one, a tax write-off, and two, he wants to go have
Yeah.
a shot at a public animal that, he buys a guide, he pays the money, but all that money goes back into conservation.
Yep.
But then he still is only buying an opportunity.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
He still has to do the work to get the animal to, make the shot, to do all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
the trophy hunting thing, I think, is lost on the
Yeah.
public who aren't hunters.
Yeah.
It's lost on them. They
can't
just
define
think
it.
they think that you and me are out trophy hunting because we happen to draw a mature a bull tag, and so
Yeah.
you're just a trophy hunter.
Yeah.
So-
Well, and I think the terminology trophy hunting has a lot of stigma
Yeah.
tied to it. And I mean, so I learned more about like Africa, right? And because Sue Tidwell, I edited a podcast on her in her book that she wrote, Cries of the Savannah. And she went on a hunt with her husband, and she was not the hunter, and talked about that aspect, right, of what people would consider trophy hunting in places like that, and how much the money, even like going there, lodging, how much the money goes towards like those communities and those tribes, and the meat going
Right.
to
Yeah.
the tribes, and I learned more about that. And I had always had this skewed perception of like hunting in Africa is like it's these people with tons of money and they get to like go, and these animals are just like
Hanging out.
they're on whatever it is, and it's crazy learning about that and being like, oh my gosh, it does, there is good tied to that if you're doing it ethically, and if you're doing it the right way, and if you're doing it for the right reasons. And she was like, she said she fell in love with Africa, going, listening to the lions in the middle of the night.
Oh.
And she wrote this whole book
Cool.
about it, and has like tried so hard to teach people about hunting. And that's when I realized, and even when you guys asked what it's like in Montana versus like with tags and everything,
Yeah.
I didn't realize until like 4 or 5 years ago, I had this Montana, that's all I knew, right? So I just knew what it was like there. I didn't know that other places there's like all these different laws, and you know, the wildlife regulations are so different in different areas, and then all the politics come in, and I don't like talking about politics, so like we won't go there. But it was so cool to learn that, and I think now that I've been like, I want to learn what it's like in other places of the world, and how wildlife is managed in different places, and because there's so many variations to how wildlife is managed, and the terminology. I feel like trophy hunting, like what you were saying, is totally, I'm like, I don't love that. That's more what gives people the idea of hunters are just killers, and that's it. Yeah. And they don't care.
To me, it's like trophies in the eye of the beholder, just like beauty.
True.
Right? And
yeah.
And I don't think there's a legal definition in our, I'm sure there is a Webster's definition of trophy, but in our world of hunting, there's not a legal definition for it.
Yeah.
Because it's limitless. A first spike bull for somebody is a trophy.
Oh my gosh, definitely. Yeah. It's where is your heart when you're talking about it?
No doubt. No doubt. Well, last I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
What's on your feet?
My moccasins. I've always been fascinated with Native American culture, and my dad has always told me that there's Native American on his side of the family, but they can't tell me like anything else, just that. And I'm like, well, all right, maybe that's why I love it so much. But I decided one day, because I have a hide that was my grandfather's. It's a deer hide, and it's like that really yellow, really beautiful color. And I had wanted to make moccasins with that hide for, I don't know, a long time, a lot of years since my grandpa passed. And so I just decided that it would be really cool to wear moccasins to the hunt expo. And this was like 2 weeks before the hunt expo, and my husband's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm gonna go. And I found this little leather shop in Missoula, Montana, and they were so sweet. And they were like, we'll make everything that you need. We'll put it in a pile right here. And I'm like, thank you so much, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And I got home and I made I made one moccasin. I traced my foot and made a pattern. So I traced the bottom of my foot, added an inch, and then I like laid the felt down and traced on the floor where it was hitting the floor and made my own pattern. So in 2 weeks, I made my pattern and then made these ones, and I'll just alter them. But now I'm like, I'm getting my bull this year during archery, because I'm going to be so sneaky.
That's right.
Nothing's going to hear me. But I do think I need to make some with bison and not deer for archery, because, I mean, this is pretty.
It's pretty thin.
This is pretty thin, but yeah, I loved it. I just love learning. I think the whole process of learning it was like fascinating to me.
They look great. Dude, they're stylish on top of that.
Right? My husband's like, those actually look like professional. Well, maybe I should be a professional moccasin maker. We need some bow hunting moccasins.
You sewed
at the
them all
Hunt Expo.
up. You did all that. You got the little. Look at that.
I had to. The hardest part was figuring out when you punch the holes in each piece of leather. This piece that's underneath, you have double holes, and then this piece, I was like, this is bunched up, so you have to figure out how far to distance it, because they all have to line up. And so that part was like not easy, and I don't do math or numbers, so like having to count them and figure that out, I was like, oh no, this is. But it worked out to where I figured it out, and now I'm just gonna never wear normal shoes ever again, and just wear moccasins.
Chelsee,
You're happy for it.
She'll be selling moccasins this time next year. She'll have her own
Right.
booth.
Okay, own booth.
So the hunting moccasin.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Photography,
Ivory hunting moccasins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All the podcast editing, graphic design.
Yeah.
It'll be a one-stop shop.
That's
for
right.
All
There you
things.
go. Well, what do you want to say? Promote? Want to send people to anything that you want to discuss about? Like, go to Ivory. Is it Ivory.outdoors, or what is it?
Yeah, it's ivory.outdoors.
On Instagram, yeah.
Yes.
So give her a follow for sure. And then just try to support anything you're doing. Is there anything else you want to
Oh, man.
throw out there?
there's so many things. I just want people to see that there's so much more to hunting than just getting a big buck or a big bull. And I think that I love small pages that are focused on that, right? Being an ethical hunter, preserving hunting heritage, getting your kids outside and taking them hunting with you, even though they blow your cover almost every single time. And they always eat all the snacks, which I'm like,
Right
that's
away,
like,
too.
why? Because I need all the Little Debbie brownies. Okay, quit taking them from me.
Yeah.
And just all of the things, like, slow down and remember that hunting is supposed to be a slow process of learning and not an ego-driven thing, and social media has really skewed that.
Yeah,
but
we've got some issues there. But
yeah, I love small pages, so if people message me, it's hard because it goes to the request folder, and then sometimes I don't see them, and I try really hard to, like, intentionally answer each message. But if people have that outlook on things and they message me, I love promoting stuff like that.
Right.
So anything like that, I mean, I don't know. That's such a hard question because I'm like, it's so loaded. I want to promote all things that are going to preserve hunting heritage, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to make a pair of moccasins here? Are you going to try to do
I
that?
think I have bison hide, actually, and I brought all my stuff. So it was a little bit of a mess this morning because I got stranded last night in the snowstorm and then made it here. And then they were like, unload the truck, like just stop on the road and unload the truck. And I was like, I am not a rush person.
Right.
Okay, I'm a slow mover. Like, this is just stressing me out. So I might bring the stuff and sit and make some moccasins.
That'd be cool.
So
That'd
I
be
was
real
like,
cool.
anything that'll bring traffic into Elena's booth and have people look at her artwork, then
That's great.
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Good. All right. Fantastic.
Right.
Thanks for
Anything-
joining
Thanks,
us.
you guys.
It was great.
So
Great-
I'm sure
great
we'll
stories.
have to tell more hunting
Oh,
stories.
yeah.
I'm
there's
sure we've got a billion.
Many. Yes.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's my favorite.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Chelsea,
thank you so
thank you.
much.
You got it.